Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have got a brand new update from Palantir. They have just inked a 10-year deal with the Cleveland Clinic. Now, this news was breaking yesterday. This comes a couple of days after Palantir got a new deal with Lockheed Martin to build more defense systems for the Navy. And so they're on a little bit more of a string of deals here. Let's see if they keep some of this momentum going. Interesting deal. Healthcare is a very big opportunity. We've talked about this a lot on the channel. Healthcare is a $4 trillion opportunity. There's going to be a lot of players going after it. Palantir, from the data side, from the operational side, from the supply chain logistics sides, from the ability to be able to make hospitals more efficient and effective, which is what they've been doing with the NHS, which hopefully lets them get this larger NHS deal. And, you know, a lot of media propaganda doesn't stop them from getting it. They know what they're doing when it comes to healthcare, and they've shown the ability to execute, literally being the backbone of the infrastructure for the COVID vaccine distribution in the UK and the US over the past couple of years. It seems like they know how to get things done. I have not seen this interview yet, so I'm going to be reacting to it while you are watching. This is the Shyam Sankar interview on Fox Business yesterday, where they discussed how Palantir is now powering hospitals. So let's get into it. Let's see what Shyam Sankar, the CEO of, or sorry, not CEO, maybe CEO one day, but COO of Palantir has to say, and we'll start analyzing what this deal means for Palantir.
Palantir shares up nearly 5% right now in this final hour, fresh off a major announcement of a deal to provide defense giant Lockheed Martin with software to modernize the U.S. Navy's combat systems. Palantir's ready to drop another headline at this hour. In an announcement, Palantir is expanding its healthcare business by signing a new 10-year-long partnership with the Cleveland Clinic for its virtual command center. Palantir software will help AI to use it and to predict patient admissions and discharges based on scheduling data. But that's like just scratching the surface here. The idea is to help the clinic, which is already fantastic at this stuff, keep its finger on the pulse of metrics such as demand, staffing, and hospital beds, making the entire system, including, yes, those long waits in the emergency room, much more efficient.
Okay, so before we keep going into that right there is the basic summary of this deal, right? If Palantir were to release a press release for this, which they didn't, that's what ultimately what would have been said. The idea that they can actually make clinics more efficient, which at the end of the day, hospitals are businesses. They need to be efficient, they need to be effective, and they need to provide the best service to their customer, which are patients, in a meaningful way. That means staffing. That means making sure patients actually get to the bed on the right time, right? That means making sure that all the vital things that they need are there. All of that stuff is a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to manage. It's a hard thing to operationalize. Data-driven operations, which is the core sort of asymmetric bet you're making on Palantir, that they can take a company or a country and take their data and turn it into a superpower for them, is the bet for ultimately investing in this company. So if Palantir is able to do what they've been able to do for some of the largest companies in the world for these clinics all across the world, that just opens up their market even more and more. Now, they were also able to reduce the backlog for 2 different hospitals in the UK system. This was a press release that came out back in like February or March from the Financial Times, showing that they reduced backlog by 28%. Why is that a big deal? Because backlog in the UK in particular is bad. And if anyone's here watching from the UK, you can please comment below and sort of give your experience on this, because the healthcare is socialized, right? It's not like a free market necessarily the same way it is in the United States. So because of that reason, it's a little bit more tougher, and Palantir was able to show results. So let's see what they're going to be able to do for the Cleveland Clinic.
Fox Business exclusive. Palantir's Chief Operating Officer, Shyam Sankar, is joining us to break the news. Shyam, I mean, the fact that the Cleveland Clinic, known for efficiency, paired with the highest quality care, picked Palantir to improve on that is a major feather in your cap. Tell us right now what your software will do for the clinic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Liz. We're so excited about the partnership with Cleveland Clinic. It's been a phenomenal opportunity to co-innovate on actually helping increase capacity in healthcare. So we are optimizing patient flows using our virtual command center, bringing together data on the patient and the clinical procedures that are necessary, data on the resourcing that's available, optimizing that allocation across geographic areas, and then importantly, the workforce scheduling aspect of ensuring that care can be delivered when it's needed. And doing this not only at a static point in time, but using AI and sophisticated models to give you deep predictive capability for weeks out, that allows you to optimize and re-optimize. Because as you know, while you may be able to schedule all the orthopedic knee replacement surgeries, you can't schedule who's going to come into the ER room. So how do you dynamically balance against this ever-changing supply and demand to deliver care?
Well, we're looking at the LMT video. That would be the Lockheed Martin stuff. But what's really crucial here is that what's going on with the Cleveland Clinic. And to that end, Let's talk about the emergency room, because when we were talking in our meeting this morning about you guys and what you'll be doing, I said, my gosh, there is always such a backlog because you never really know when an emergency room is going to have a massive number of people walk in or it's totally quiet. But maybe by sifting through the data over years and years, you can pretty much figure out that on Saturdays, weekend warriors, grown-ups, and my floor director, Austin, who played touch football over the weekend, and
still hurts.
Oh yeah, he's still complaining. He's still fetching here. But yeah, all of his friends right there in the urgent care.
I think
Go ahead.
you're hitting on a very important point, and a lot of this was really brought out by the shocks of the pandemic. I think from a healthcare perspective, what we're doing generalizes to the work that we're doing and the momentum we're seeing across the U.S. commercial business, which is that in order for your institution to not only survive but to thrive, it's not just about how well can you plan what's going to happen, it's how well can you also react to the things that you could not plan. And so giving institutions that ability to react to reality.
Okay, well,
that's what you're.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's an important point, and we'll get back into this, but this is sort of the key argument I think that Palantir is making around the healthcare space in particular. The pandemic was a horrible thing, but it highlighted the ability for businesses that are crucial and mission critical companies to actually step up, right? Palantir was one of those companies. You know, Amazon stock price doubled because they were able to sell more things and build out, 7 to 10 years worth of infrastructure in a couple of months, to be honest, when it comes to delivery, because there was so much demand. So that was good for Amazon. For a company like Palantir, that's a small company, not a $1 trillion company, trying to showcase what they can become over the next 10, 20 years, the pandemic was a perfect opportunity for them to show that when unexpected things happen, and this was a global unexpected event, they can actually step up to the plate and solve challenges. In unexpected events, in micro isolated situations for one clinic where there's life or death on the line because things are unexpected, but it's not on a global level, if Palantir could solve it on a global level, could they also solve it on a micro level? And I think that's the bet. I mean, imagine how many clinics there are in the world, right? Forget the Cleveland Clinic, which is known as an iconic clinic to be incredibly efficient, but there's a lot of other hospitals and clinics all across the entire world that could be operationalizing their data and make better sense of how to become more efficient. And, if Palantir can get to them and show them that they're able to do it, then that may be a big opportunity for them.
Can I bring in?
So through the context,
I do want to bring up exactly that. We could not plan for a pandemic, although great and brilliant epidemiologists like my sister-in-law, Dr. Anne Ramoyne, would say, yes, you could have planned for this and we knew. But I want to say that about in 2020, there was an understaffing issue, the likes of what America has never seen. And then about a year and a half later, things calmed down. What can Palantir do in this relationship with the Cleveland Clinic and potentially other hospitals and organizations to anticipate when you can let doctors have extra sleep or when you know you're going to be needing a bigger staff of them?
And you are hitting on the crucial issue right now. I mean, we are talking about frontline workers who have been grinding it out for over 2 years. We're doing this work in both the UK and the US. And before it was just about, can I staff the OR room to deliver the care? Now it's, can I retain those workers? So how do I manage the workload? This brings in the longitudinal dimension to it. So there is that need to deliver care today, and there's a need to balance what you're asking your workforce to do to make sure you can continue to deliver that care. And the reason that's so acute is that we had this big backlog of procedures build up over the course of the pandemic for a couple of years. And that backlog is rushing through the system now. It's stressing every aspect, from the labor model, resourcing model, to care delivery.
I know that you've been working, as you said, with the United Kingdom. There is a little bit of a pushback there. Some people are concerned about how.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. I didn't know they were going to talk about this. All right, let's see how he responds. This is the first time we're hearing Palantir spokesperson actually talk about the NHS pushback on live TV. I mean, they said in an article, but I want to see what Shyam has to say.
How you safeguard the patient information, which is obviously very sensitive. Have those questions been addressed, and what are you doing differently, if anything at all, with the clinic to make sure that you put to rest some of the concerns about patients' data on your Foundry system?
Yeah, I mean, those are crucial questions. You can't work in healthcare. I mean, healthcare is our third largest vertical. It's an area that we've been in since before 2012, and an area that we're quite dominant in. You really can't work in healthcare if you can't protect the patient data. We actually have developed world-class leading data protection that we call purpose-based access control. So I'm not just securing the data based on the data set or the rows in the columns, but also I'm able to determine whether you have a legitimate purpose and that there's been consented use to this data. So actually, we're quite proud of the investments we make and continue to make in data protection and privacy and civil liberties. And we think that's what every citizenry deserves.
Well,
Okay, so pretty basic answer. I mean, he didn't say too much other than the same stuff that we already know. It's just a question of like convincing the people in the UK that they actually aren't trying to steal your data.
you guys have been, as we say, on a deal roll. You just yesterday announced the relationship with Lockheed Martin for the U.S. Navy combat systems. Not to mention, you've been working on a partnership with Ferrari for the Grand Prix. These are fascinating, actionable, profitable events that you could actually put together to make the company a lot of money. And it must be frustrating when you look at the stock, which obviously, like every data stock, has really gotten hammered. How do you get the world and Wall Street to see that this is a company that is in it for the long term and is going to improve this picture? I mean, you're down 61% year over year. It's great to see you up 5% today, but how do you sort of wrap your arms around that problem?
Well, I've had the great fortune of being at Palantir for 17 years. And over that time, what we've just focused on is making our software more and more valuable, making sure that whether it's the kill chain in Lockheed Martin or the supply chain with Tyson Foods, that there are no missing links and that we are delivering day over day. And we recently had a customer conference in Palo Alto where Tyson Foods was talking about how they got $200 million of savings within 24 months and how rare and how hard that is. And Jacob Engineering was sharing how they're projected to save up to $90 million in energy costs in wastewater treatment. And those stories that we're getting from the front lines, literally on the front lines of Ukraine to the front lines of our customers in the U.S. commercial business, they continue to motivate our product roadmap and the value we create. And we think the stock price will reflect that.
Shyam, love having you on. We follow this company, and
All
I
right,
really appreciate.
That's it. Look, the stock price, I've said it over the past couple months, I'm starting to not care about it anymore. The macro sucks. $7 is whatever. At one point it was almost 45. I think I agree with Shyam. The stock price will reflect itself once the macro gets better, and Wall Street starts to recognize how valuable of a platform this is. What I care about right now as a heavy investor in Palantir is like, are they doing the things that I think they need to be doing over the next decade that makes me excited to be an investor in them? Are they setting up the foundations? And Lockheed Martin, Hertz, $800 million of governmental contracts, this new deal with the Cleveland, like the Ukraine stuff, time and time again, I see people, companies, organizations, governments picking Palantir over everybody else. And that's exciting to me because they're not picking other companies. They're picking them for a reason. Now, do they have as many clients as something like a Snowflake? No. But do they have the technology that I think is building the foundations for them to grow at that scale and do the things that a company like Snowflake necessarily can't? Yes, that's the exciting part to me. And so that's what's going to be interesting to see over the next 5-6 years to see how this plays out. Ultimately, healthcare is a very big opportunity. The Cleveland Clinic, one of the most efficient hospitals in the world, actually being able to make, as the host said, them picking Palantir because they can make their data even more efficient and effective in terms of how they deploy it and make decisions is a big sign of confidence for Palantir. And let's see if they can do this for other clinics. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.